This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Boy, I was looking forward to Monday because we'll get to talk about the new schedules coming out. The BPT and the MLF Pro Circuit introduces their schedules, and then they had a little derby, little Elite Series derby on Thousand Islands out of Clayton. And it didn't look like it was going to ever, it's kind of a little bit stingy, a little bit tough. And then they looked at the weather that was going on out there, and it's going to blow on day one, and that's going to keep everybody from hitting the 100-pound mark. And then they went out and absolutely assaulted the place. 4 bags over 100 pounds. Koya and Taku, Chris and Patrick all got century belts. Patrick Walters blows away the smallmouth, 105 pounds for his 4-day total, becomes the only angler to have a century belt on both largemouth and smallmouth bass. And unless they have some sort of weird 4-day specialty event on a few select fisheries out in California, there's no way he's going to get a spotted bass for a 100-pound belt. But it was an absolute slugfest. And we're going to talk to one of the guys who was right in the mix, and I really would like to get his take on what it is like to be part of a I don't even want to say once in a lifetime, because every single time the Elite Series goes there, it gets better and better, which you think is impossible, but it does get better. That is none other than Chris Zaldain, who you appear to be in the RV.
I'm in the RV. Yeah. Good morning, guys. We're still here. And I got to ask you, so you live like, 3.5 hours north of me? I live in Dallas, Fort Worth. I got to ask you, what are the temperatures currently in Oklahoma right now? Because that's going to determine how long we stay in upstate New York.
Okay, we had a cold front that came through where we're at, and it's in the 70s this morning. I mowed my lawn yesterday evening, and it was pleasant. And this morning when I went out, I'm such an old man. I like to I drink my coffee, I get up, I go out, I check the mail, I had to take the garbage can out, and I was like, boy, it is pleasant out. It was actually cool. It was the first time since I'd been up north that there was a little bit of a nip in the air.
You know you're getting old when you talk about weather, and here you and I are talking about weather, dude. We are getting old. I think you and I are the same age, but
84 or 85?
1984.
August. I just had a birthday. 39.
Bro, happy birthday. September 11th is mine.
Oh, that's coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, so we're still up here, upstate New York. We got
just hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out. We got Bill Lowen and Hunter Shryocker, actually, two sites down. They're hanging out as well. Now, whether that's, doing homework and research for years to come on this place, or they're like us where they're just kind of enjoying the weather. I mean, it was legit like chilly this morning. So, I mean, it's nice up here.
Hey,
and
we can jump. Go ahead.
Yeah. No,
that's what I was going to say. When's your schedule coming out?
Yeah. I mean, Trait's sitting right here next to me. So not only do you have me, but you got Trait.
She refuses to be on camera.
Yes, she's still in her PJs. So this camera will stay this way. And then my dogs are floating around here too. But I think Eric Lopez said in the next week or so, Trait, we're going to have our schedule released. Whether Thousand Islands is on the schedule or not, I'm not sure, but it doesn't hurt to stick behind and do research on this place because it's so big, and you bet your bottom dollar that we will be here sometime in the near future. And if not us, it'll be the Toyotas. If not the Toyotas, it's a BFL. Not BFLs, it's MLF. It's like, this is by far the best smallmouth fishery in the world. And it's just a unique part of the eastern side of Lake Ontario. It's the last bit of flowing water of all the Great Lakes before it like kind of goes into the St. Lawrence River and goes out to the ocean. And for whatever reason, just the current mixed with habitat, mixed with food, clarity, It's just the perfect recipe for, just epic smallmouth fishing. You saw that with those 4 guys weighing over 100 pounds this week, dude. It's getting nutty. Every single year, the weights go up, due to, the fishery and due to modern electronics, which 50-50, half of this campground here this week was absolutely just against it, and half of them were embracing it. And basically what you could do, and some of the comments that you placed over the last week, basically what you could do is look at an Elite Series guy's, how many years he has invested on the Elite Series on the tour, or even how old he is generally, and place him in a group of, do you like LiveScope or not? And then kind of the younger guys, first year, second, third year guys, ask them, do you like LiveScope? Yes or no? And you could kind of,
We're right in the middle right now. Like
Yeah,
we're in a
yep.
weird in between zone because you're an established pro.
Yep.
You've done it the old school way.
Yep.
You're also technologically savvy.
Yep.
You could adapt. Like we'll just dive right into this because I got a little bit of hate. So I was on, and it was rightfully so. I could understand where people were coming from. I was on, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
So I was on Andrew Upshaw's Open Pros Pick'em when we were from the St. Lawrence. We were talking about the St. Lawrence, and I made a comment, something about it's like watching a 50-year-old try to learn LiveScope. And I'm not going to lie, I had some 50-year-olds that took exception to that, and rightfully so if you hear it out of context. What I was trying to kind of say in a joking way that didn't come across very well to some people was I wasn't like insulting 50-year-olds. Help, we'll be there before you know it.
Sure, yeah.
But what I was saying was what you're seeing is you're seeing a seismic change in fish catching methods and techniques and the way people are going about it. And the older you are, it's human nature, the more set in your ways you are.
Yes.
So what I think you're seeing, and I want you to confirm or talk a little bit about this, is the older anglers who are still at the peak of their game. They're still at the top of their game. You put a flipping stick in Matt Herron's hand, you put a spinning rod in Matt Herron's hand or anything, I want no part of that guy.
Yeah.
But then you throw that forward-facing sonar, and the more you've done something and had success and fed your family doing it a specific way for decades and decades and decades and refined it, the harder it is to get away from that at the drop of a hat. So the younger guys, it's not that they're smarter. It's not that they understand LiveScope better. It's that they don't have that track record. They don't have the history behind it. So they're malleable, and they're more likely to change at a drop of a hat and do things that seem completely irrelevant that guys have. Do you see what I'm saying with that, Chris?
Yes, that's spot on. That's absolutely spot on. So, I'm going on year number 13 on the tour. And then, several years before that, I fished out in California. So the reason why KVD is who he is, the reason why Matt Herron is who he is, Rick Clunn, some of the older seasoned vets, tournament bass fishing is all about relying on past success. Like many times on tour, especially over the last few years here, it's like, oh, I remember back on the California Delta. I remember back on Clear Lake when I'm slow winding a giant swim bait uphill on a main rocky point. Let me apply this to Table Rock. Let me apply this to Lake Oneida. So we rely on past success. So, as your track record gets better and better and better, you become seasoned. You become a seasoned vet, and you can rely on those past experiences. 10 years ago, we didn't have forward-facing sonar, so you had to rely on your natural talent. You had to rely on map study was a big one, but just applying all the trial, tribulation, and errors. And all those times making those casts and not catching fish across that beautiful, slow sloping point with a drop off. Oh, I didn't get a bite on that one. I didn't get a bite on that one. Why am I getting a bite on this one? Now you pull up to these slow sloping points with a drop off, and you literally, there is a fish on it. There is not a fish on it. Let's go to the next one. So it's no longer relying on your past successes. It's really that screen right in front of you tells you right then and there. So, one of the guys you just mentioned was at my campground here. Man, he was really smoking forward-facing sonar, and I agree. Like, I completely agree. Heck, one of the CJs in the top 10, just a couple days ago, we were about to blast off, and I said, "Hey, dude, hey, Corey." I said, "Man, this place is really getting better and better every year." And he goes, F no. He goes, it's all, forward facing sonar. Like, this place is getting absolutely smoked. They've always been this way. They've always been this big, but now guys are catching them on absolute flats with no cover, no structure, no rock piles, no rock veins. And they're beaming for them. And they're catching 5 and 6 pounder singles. And that's where we're at. And matter of fact, a lot of guys right now, and I don't want to turn this into a forward facing sonar bash show.
No, but you're right in the fire, dude, and it's not a bash at all. I mean, this is something that the industry is dealing with. I think you have to have deep discussions about it. You can't say it's bad, contact your agency, ban it, it's ruining fisheries without any facts, and you also can't say it's the savior of fishing without any facts. You have to figure out where it actually is in the landscape.
So Trey brought up a good point yesterday. So Bass, after every tournament, Bass sends us an email approximately a week to 2 weeks after our tournament, says, hey, congratulations, Patrick Walters. Congratulations, Koya Fujita. Great tournament. You won with X amount of pounds. Here's are the viewership numbers. I would love to see, like, I can't get them soon enough. I want to see what the viewership was for this record breaking smallmouth event. Century belts galore, 29-pound bag. I wonder what the viewership is. I mean, record breaking weights, but
how much tackle was sold?
How much tackle was sold? How many forward facing units were sold? Was it entertaining is what I want to know. Comment below. Like, was that an entertaining event to watch? I mean, guys, forward facing, neck down, make that same cast that everyone knows to make. And then scoops up a 6 or 7 pound smallmouth. Is that entertaining? I don't know. And then go to the organization. We all need to collectively as anglers go to the organization and say, hey, look, I mean, what are the fans saying? And ultimately, we want to entertain and educate the fans. And if forward-facing sonar is so boring that they're not educated or entertained, then maybe we need to think about, getting rid of it. Or even cooler, and I don't know if we're honest enough as anglers, I just came back from Europe a month ago. Nitro.
I was jealous about those perch.
Yeah,
I'm addicted to yellow perch,
awesome.
and I know they're like a different subspecies, but oh my gosh,
awesome. It's just like bass fishing. But the Europeans, in their tournaments, because forward-facing sonar was so effective on their tournaments and boring, they implemented a power hour where yes, you could have LiveScope. Yes, you could have Mega Live. Yes, you could have active target on your boats, but it's a power hour, a 12 o'clock hour, 1 o'clock hour, 2 o'clock hour, whatever it is. They have a power hour where you cannot use forward-facing sonar throughout the day until this power hour, and then everyone gets off the bank or off that, point or rock pot or whatever it is, and then they could go scanning around. So that's kind of a cool little thing too. But will Bass do that? Probably not.
Are you cool with talking about what you're running on your boat now?
Okay, so I have a contract. There's been some YouTube videos. We've been pumping out YouTube content. And
that's what I was saying, because you've been on Zaldain. I follow the Zaldangerous YouTube channel religiously.
Yeah. Hey, look, I still have a contract. I am very, very, very tight with Johnson Outdoors. I put some pieces of equipment on my boat that I thought would help me through these last few tournaments. I was open, honest, with them, and that's key. And Trait helped me with that. As on the Bilge podcast, she tees up all the hard questions and comments and topics. But yeah, hey, my back was against the wall. I was having a crappy year. 3 smallmouth tournaments. We all know just by the last couple of years what dominates up here this time of year, and it's forward-facing sonar. And so I put some things on my boat that may have conflicted with my contracts, and we've talked through that and everything. But dude, we're competitors. We need every single thing.
Let me ask you this: why do you think the forward-facing sonar see so much backlash? But I remember covering a TTBC that Keith Combs won on Lake Conroe, and he gets off the water and he says the only reason that he was able to win that tournament was because he was an early adopter of the 360, and he could see all the brush piles where he sat on Lake Conroe that he didn't know where the little 1s and 2s were. And he said he could set up and he could take his plug and he could go, oh, there's a little stob over there.
Yep.
6 pounder. There's a little stob over there that I didn't know about. But you didn't hear that was so cool that could happen, but you didn't hear a single person say, well, he's seeing out around his boat in front. Do you think, what do you think the difference was, why that and 360? because I don't have 360 and I feel like I'm in a disadvantage without 360 when I go up north, especially on a grass lake like Oneida, because you talk to guys and you're like, no, dude, there's a grass clump here, here, and here. And then they've got the live scope and then can see it in there. But why do you think there's not a backlash towards the 360 and that technology that is just as expensive? But there is towards the live, because that's basically live too. You can see them. It's just, it's just a different type of live.
It's just different. Yeah. And you've seen, like, Brandon Polinick talks about it all the time with his, his wins.
Yeah. He won an Angler of the Year with it.
A couple of them. And he attributes that to Mega Live, Mega 360. Sorry. And,
but why isn't there a backlash on Mega 360?
Why not a backlash? It's not as dominant. It is not as dominant. And I will say, by the way, sidebar, like, the best setup, outside of forward facing sonar is like a smooth trolling motor. Like, you have to have a smooth trolling motor, because the way how thin that beam is, it's
micro adjusting.
Yes. That Ultrax Quest is super smooth, and then in conjunction with 360, you know where to point that beam. So the more electronics we have, the more advantage you have. Yes, but going back to your question, the advantage, it just wasn't as dominant. It wasn't as dominant. It's not as boring to watch, so it's not, You
keep saying boring to watch. I think you're looking at this wrong, though. You're saying, yes, because you're looking at the organization. You're saying, I want to see what those numbers are. I want to see if people were watching it or not. But this is new. It's a new way to do it. Maybe we're covering the tournaments wrong. Maybe there needs to be new angles. Maybe there needs to be new things highlighted. Maybe they need to do a contract with the companies to where instead of just having certain like graph brands down on the bottom, if you're on live, you can see that screen. You can see it. Now you can see the guy's face. Now you can actually see the screen. So maybe the wrong question is being asked. Maybe what should be asked is, this is the future of fishing. How do we cover this to make it interesting and inform the viewers why this takes skill, why Patrick Walters and Koya and Kenta and Justin Hamner, who's highly underrated at this. We'll talk about that later. But why these guys, because everybody has it now, but why are there guys who are at the best in this, and how can we showcase that, and how can we make this new style of fishing in 2023 interesting for the viewers?
Yeah, no, that's the step we need to take for sure. And Humminbird with Mega Live, they implemented a program where, the BASS production team, JM
you can see it.
Yeah, we've got an HDMI
beautiful
cable. Yeah, and
love watching Gussie and the Classic on it. It was phenomenal.
Watching those schools of smallmouth come up, and it is crystal clear. Now, some of the bass cameramen will actually zoom in, on the guy's graph. And yes, you have the water spots and it's the glare. But when we're watching that on live on the TV here, when I'm off the water and I'm watching this, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Watching that fish rocket up or the school of fish at Champlain rocket up. I mean, that's interesting and that's cool. But when a dude is just, the dip in his mouth and he's just looking down, not talking at all, and just catching them off. I mean, the guy kind of expects you to clap for him. It's like, dude, I mean, it's not fun to watch.
I think you got to show the screen. You got to show on and granted, like, that was a brilliant move by Humminbird to do the deal with Bass to be able to show the screen. But I think you're to the point now with the coverage is so good and the commentators and everything is so dialed in, and you're catching literally, you're breaking records almost on a weekly. You have these events. I think you have to maximize how it's covered. And I think that screen and some different camera angles are the deal, because, dude, I mean, you guys have the best in the business and everything from the production to the cameramen to the live coverage.
And Champlain was the coolest because it was just like underwater. I said on a video the other day, like there's a video, YouTube video of a diver that went down and was filming a big giant bait ball of sardines or anchovies, and these big striped marlin were just assassinating them from below. And that's the coolest thing to watch. And with forward-facing sonar at Champlain a couple weeks ago, we saw that with just mega wads of smallmouth.
Yeah, it was freaking awesome.
Hammering them, right? And some of the cameramen were zooming in and watching. That's a lot. That's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the fisherman says, "Hey, look, okay, so this school of bait is only relating to 15 to 20 feet of water because this wind direction, or this water clarity, or this hard bottom," that is educational with the entertainment, and that's a home run in my opinion. But we don't get that all the time. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to Bradley Hallman, like one of your boys.
Yeah,
him and I were fishing a point that had hundreds of smallmouth around it at Champlain. And every time we get within range of each other, whether that's talking range or if our forward-facing sonar beams would interfere with each other, at that point, you're too close to one another. But Bradley Hallman, he's a seasoned vet. He's a very nice guy. Every time we would come across each other, he would say, "Hey, hey, what about it, Chris? Hey, how's it going, Chris?" He's like, "Hey, how's your day going? What's good?" And other guys, and this happened a lot, and this happens a lot in this day and age, head down, hoodie on, your beams are intersecting and interfering with each other. Not a single word. They will cast at you. Like, dude, come on, dude. Like, there needs to be a freaking etiquette, like some type of etiquette, just like Bradley Hallman. Like, at least say something. Like, "Hey, dude, I was here yesterday," but like, it brings out the jerks in people. It really does. It truly does. And someone said this the other day, it's like their pattern isn't that sloping point or that drop off, that break, that high
it's
spot.
scoping.
It's the whole lake is their pattern. Like, and that's what literally, that's kind of the approach that some of these younger guys are taking, like dead serious.
Listen, we'll put a bow on this because we could literally beat this dead horse right now. I'll have horse lovers send me hate for that. We could talk about this for hours, but here's where the skill is that you can't see. And I feel like I'm 100% correct in this. You have a fish that is, you're in 2 footers. You have a fish that is 86 feet in front of the boat. You're throwing a 3/16 ounce bait. Where the skill is right now, it's head down. You see a cast and all of a sudden they have it. And you have people that are going, "Oh, well, this is like spotlighting deer." What needs to be shown is the skill with the screen to somehow understand that angler was able to make an 86-foot cast to a moving fish, lead it to where its 3/16 and 3-inch bait is able to go 14 foot down. The fish is 16 foot down. Stop it, get that fish's attention, then move that bait away from that fish, all while keeping it in the beam and getting that bite. That's where the skill is. That's where the entertainment factor is. That's where it's the freaking windmill dunk from the free throw line or the half court 3-pointer, because right now all we're seeing is the score going up. And we don't know whether it was a layup. We don't know whether it was a windmill dunk. We don't know whether it was a granny shot. You have to show the shot and not just the points. And that's where the entertainment value is, because now you're sending screenshots and stuff like, "Dude, did you see Chris hit that fish at 92 feet out that was 4 foot below the surface?" Then you go out and try to do it and you're like, "Crap, I can't do that." That's what is, it's lost in translation right now, is that skill and that element of it.
No, that's definitely a very technical side of it that is up there with Dean Rojas skipping his frog underneath a
100%. If you just see the blow up, you're like, "Oh, well, they hate the frog. You just cast your frog there." But what you don't understand is there's 8 people in the world who can put that frog where Dean puts the frog.
We just need to tell that story better through the lens of the live cameras, and then the anglers as well. Like when I'm beaming them, okay, so I'm beaming left to right. Okay, that's his tail. I can tell that's his tail. I can see that that's his nose. I can see that he's moving left to right because I'm also moving my screen left, my trolling motor left to right. And if I move it left, he's out of the beam. So let's go back. Okay, there he is again. He's moving left to right. And now we got to lead that cast. There's the wind. There's the current. Okay, oh man, that cast sucked. I got to throw it back in there and lead him right. Oh, here he comes. There he is. Like that. That's cool. That is cool.
You have hero shots. It's the same thing in golf. Like if they only showed people putting, would everyone be as enamored with Tiger Woods? No, it's the tree root, tree root shot where he's hooking it, where he's going over the water from 270. Like that's where the juice is. Like you should be calling up your buddies going, "Dude, he just hit him at 115 feet out, 19 feet down." Like that needs to be definitely highlighted more.
Yeah, no. In a world of everything's so easy to hate on these days, and everyone's got opinion online. Heck, just look at any of the fishing forums. I mean, there's forward-facing sonar hate everywhere, But like you said, to your point, I mean, if we were all to do a little better job telling the story and how it's done, I think it would be a little more acceptable overall.
I don't know what the right answer is. Like there is not a right answer. We're in a weird new era right now in bass fishing that I think you forget. I mean, the pioneers of this thing. I mean, you're still fishing with Rick Clunn, who he was here right around when it started. We're talking the 1960s. Most of the guys who pioneered this entire sport are still alive. It's a very young sport. If you go back and look at some of the NHL rules, some of the NBA stuff, I mean, there was a time when dunking was illegal and there wasn't a 3-pointer.
Wow.
I'm just saying everything evolves and changes, and right now we're in an evolutionary period, at least in my opinion, covering it from the sidelines and fish in the opens.
There are no right answers right now with that whole topic.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk to you about the actual tournament, not about how it went down, but just about the weights, about what it's like to be in the midst of a heavyweight slugfest and know that a 5-pounder is subpar, which is unbelievable. Before we take a break, though, hey, I noticed you're a big Black Rifle Coffee Company guy, and I was listening to you talk with Swindle on the Bilge podcast, and you were talking about how you would go out of your way to go to Advance Auto Parts, to get stuff like that, dude. I go out of my way at Walmart. I spend $150 every month or every other month. At Walmart, get 3 or 4 of the different Black Rifle coffees just because of their support of the industry of the sport. Yeah,
that's awesome. Dude.
So I mean, they don't sponsor the show, don't do a thing for them, but I got a coffee tree of Black Rifle out there, and it's because of their support of guys like you and Swindle and Watson in the industry. So
that's a good little story right there, and I will send you a contact number there. Just
I wasn't asking for a contact info on that. I got no problem spending money on
awesome.
it. So awesome, all right, we are talking with Chris Zaldain after a record-setting Elite Series tournament won by Patrick Walters. Oh, I do have one more point on Patrick Walters, but I'll save that.
Okay.
Save that for when we come back. It's BTL on a Monday, and we will be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, we are back, BTL, on a Monday, full week of BTL. It's kind of a weird time of the year as far as booking guests because you have a lot of Elite Series guys, and then a lot of them are like celebrating that they either made the Classic or they requalified, and then you've got another group that want nothing to do with fishing because they didn't make the Classic or they didn't requalify. There's also some that you're able to talk to too, but a very interesting talk on forward-facing sonar and where it kind of stands in the industry as it is. And I want to go back to some of the comments. Where was this one? It was pretty funny. Oh, Clay said, you got to give Matt credit. He defends forward-facing sonar and is also getting beat by it. That shows that he's not just defending it for financial gain.
That's awesome.
Like I thought up until this year on the Opens that I was cutting edge and top of the game and kind of top of the heap when it came to forward-facing sonar. And
you do a lot of it. You do a lot of it in the off season too, crappie fishing. Like you were on it a long time ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah.
Like I got third in a Toyota championship.
Yeah.
And it was probably 40% forward facing sonar, like exact beaming him, pitching a drop shot to him, watching him eat it. And I would say 20% of the field had it, and maybe 5 to 10% of the field knew what was up. And I mean, I wouldn't have finished third without it there. And I remember thinking, like, the next year you see more and you're like, dang it, more people are and now if you don't have it, you're almost like made fun of.
Yes, dude.
And some fortune. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about with Patrick Walters.
Yep.
And I'm buddies with Justin Hamner. And Hamner, I think him and Cobb and I might get this story wrong in a certain, but the gist of it's the same. Walters he was not an early adopter of forward-facing sonar. He's considered one of it. But here's one of the things. So Hamner is big on that. And I guess Walters is just very talented. It's a talent at hand-eye to technology and computer. Like, he picked up Call of Duty, which is something that like a group of them play.
Yeah. And
then like within a month was smoking everybody in their group who had been playing for years and years and years. And it really ticked everyone off. If I think it's right, I think Brandon Cobb was salty because Walters was smoking him in Call of Duty.
Wow.
And it was like, how do you just pick up a video game that quick? But he did the same thing with forward-facing sonar too. Hamner said once he understood it and got it, boom, he was off and running on it. So there is some sort of weird head mental understanding thing that translates both on and off the water with the video game connection there.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. No, that's yeah. Huh.
I didn't know that. It's an interesting theory, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard that about and LaHue's kind of in that group as well. I think I heard that from LaHue where he was smoking everyone. But he's, I mean, like I was watching live yesterday. I was like, there's no like special lure. I mean, he was throwing like a wacky rig, like, stickworm type, and no one really does that around here, but that's not the difference maker. It's the accuracy and understanding, more so like just being efficient at it, like very, very efficient at it. And we're talking about here, this event here, in practice, we only had 2 days. The area that I finished third in or whatever last year, it's a very far run. It's 50 something miles from the ramp. And the only other 2 guys that fished that area last year was Patrick Walters and Jason Christie. And Atkins touched it a little bit. But this year there were a lot more guys. But this year in practice, dude, I saw how efficient Patrick Walters was. We're kind of hopscotching, fishing the same. Just, both of us are looking at Lake Master mapping. We would fish, the long points with the little saddle with the high spot, or the little star, the little asterisk on the Lake Master, which indicates boulders, underwater boulders. So he would just it's run and gun fishing, but he's beaming them. He's not casting like KVD would trying to receive the information to make his adjustments and decisions from there. He would put the trolling motor down and just beam, scan, trolling motor on 100, scan. Okay, don't see anything. Go to the next thing. And he's running and gunning. Like, I watched it with my own eyes, and I'm sitting there whining a chatterbait like I did, last year on shallow spots, old school fishing. And I'm watching him do this and just like go shallow, then deep, then shallow, then deep, and just scan around. And dude, that's efficiency with this new technology. So yeah, when he's smoking everyone at Call of Duty, like you said, that's no surprise, dude. Like, he gets after it.
What is it like going into a tournament where you know that you're going to have to average a 5-pound smallmouth to compete? And you did a very good job at competing. You had 68.4 over 3 days, which, boys and girls, that's 22 pounds of largemouth a day. And like,
Smallmouth,
you didn't even smallmouth. I mean,
yeah.
sorry.
And
you didn't even sniff it. I mean, you were in the hump, but I mean,
Nope.
what is it like going into that? Did you know what was about to go down?
Yeah, the first day, obviously the wind blew, which is great because it makes the guys work. It makes the AOI winner, the Rookie of the Year winner. It makes the winner of the event work. Through diversity. With the south wind and the northeast wind, and you got to constantly switch it up and change. I just knew, the first day I had caught 22 something pounds. I survived and I stayed in the river. I didn't play it safe, and I went out as far as I could, but fished all new water, caught 22, just fishing history. But after seeing 29, 27, 28 pounds, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to step my game up. They have to be 5 and 6 pounders from here on out, and that is so hard to do out here. Yes, they live here. Yes, they're plentiful, but this is a big-ass body of water, and finding 5 and 6 pounders, you either have to cover a lot of water or be very, very efficient at what is going on, that pattern or that effective technique that this week. And we all saw, those guys do exactly what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. So, yeah, you got to tell yourself, hey, if I'm going to make the Classic, I need 27 to 28 pounds a day. And you got to realize real quick, like, if you come up short, anything short of that, you ain't going to do it. So a lot of emotions here this week for me personally. I knew this was my last line of defense to not work the Classic floor. But yeah, it didn't work out. And that's just kind of the season I've had. I'm a power fishing guy. I'm a finesse guy as well. Growing up in California, we've talked about this on the show, and Bass Zone articles 10, 12, 13 years ago. Me personally, the schedule just kind of started out just kind of real swampy. I just got in a bad cycle for several string of tournaments mixed with, some electronics frustrations and whatever. I mean, it was a couple of those tournaments I'd end up in the same spot as some guys and watch them just crank them out left and right. That frustrates you. That leads you to bad decisions. Hey, I need to get away from here. And that's happened several times. It was just it was a terrible season, but a phenomenal week here on the St. Lawrence. And it just, that's year number 12 down, going on 13. And just fortunate. I know. And you and I have been close buddies through Bass Zone, Jeffries, since the inception. Yeah. Heck yeah. They're a great sponsor of mine. And what is a sponsorship these days? We talk about this on the Build podcast all the time. Like, the idea that you and Mark Jeffries had about the black box and have all the anglers,
I haven't thought about that for years.
Yeah, now it's kind of a dead subject, but I would love to hear the results of this box, this survey box of, hey, survey 50 of the Elite Series guys, or 100 of the Elite Series guys, 100 of the 80 of the MLF guys, survey them and say, how much do you make in sponsorship money, in this particular season? I would love to hear that because chances are it's not good.
I mean, listen, from an outsider looking in, you've had numerous top 10 angler of the year finishes in the past. Then you look at the past 2 years, rods, reels, baits, boat, you add a podcast, you basically change everything. It looks like, hey, there's a lot of distractions here that finally caught up with Chris in 2023. Is that the case, or is it, hey, this is a very changing ecosystem, and sometimes you just have a crappy year?
Yeah, no. So that's an interesting point, and I thought about posting the whole thing, writing out this giant paragraph on what could be looked at as an excuse. All this other stuff going on, all these other obligations, sponsor wise, but it all boils down to kind of what makes me happy, what makes us happy, and like sparking up a podcast or concentrating on just YouTube videos, educating and entertaining. That stuff makes me happy, dude. It really does. Now, am I saying that competitive bass fishing is kind of taking a back seat to our whole thing? No, not at all. I still love competing like crazy. It was just a bad year. It was, like I said, just a series of weird events that happen on the water that just sparks bad decisions. And we finished 68th in AOY. It's the worst season 60th. Okay. 60th is probably the worst I've ever had. But now this day and age, and you know this, dude, like, and we talked about on the podcast with KVD. I mean, return on investment is the only thing that these sponsors want to see. And you got to do whatever it takes, stay on the cutting edge, to satisfy and wow the logos on your chest, on your boat, on your truck. And by the way, those logos that are actually printed on your chest and boat, and nowadays that what does that even mean? It's just anyone could slap that logo on a truck or whatever. That does nothing. That sells zero product whatsoever. It's going above and beyond and delivering messages or educating or entertaining.
I still think that
digitally.
logo sells because it is associated with what you're doing, educating and entertaining and results wise. So I still think there is value in the logo, but that you create the value in the logo. There's no more people buying it just because it's on a pro's boat. They're buying it because they're supporting the pro whose boat it's on,
the
because
overall
of what they bring to the game.
Correct. You just talked about that with the Black Rifle Coffee thing. Swindle does a great job at talking about that, but this whole landscape, this whole professional fishing and the marketing landscape, it's changing all the time. You know, we had a sit down meeting at ICAST with a couple of our sponsors, and and Mercury, for example, some of the things that they want to see and what they expect of the anglers are different than what a Black Rifle or a Guggen Baits or a Bass Mafia. It's different, and they all have their kind of approaches, and it's hard to satisfy all of them. But overall, if you invest in your own brand, and I say this all the time, it is invest in yourself and build something within yourself or within your team that these people want to, invest in you. And that you've been doing a great job with that. And I just wish the whole industry would understand that and realize that it's so much more than just catching a bass, because that only gets you so far. Patrick Walters has done a great job at catching bass and getting very far. But when they see that, they see his personality. When they see the woo on stage, he's building out a brand outside of the fact that he could catch fish. And that right there is so valuable to sponsors.
There's more and more guys that are kind of understanding this, but I think it's still a reactive industry for the most part, with a few outliers. But there's more people that are reacting now than saying, this just isn't for me. Like they're finding you have to have. Like Brad's a perfect example of that. You mentioned Brad Hallman. Like he wouldn't even really come on BTL for a number of years. And then, he took a break. He regained his passion. He got back into it. He said, you know what? I'm in my 40s. I have goals that I want to achieve. I want blue trophies. I want to cross the classic stage. And then he embraced that X factor, the media side. And like he had an atrocious year. But dude, I don't think he realizes it right now because he gets down on himself, but he's got so many people all across the country that have followed him, that are rooting for him. And instead of like, what the hell, Brad made the Elite Series and he's sucking. Now this is part of his story, and he's telling a story, and it's going to be a chapter in his story that is going to make the first blue trophy or the classic qualification that much sweeter, because now they're invested in his story.
Exactly. And in turn, down the road leads to a falcon rod sail or or whatever it is, just a little bit further down the line, but it's not a, it's he's got a great approach and just building out a great respectable brand for yourself as an angler. I mean, that's like step one. And that's the move. That is the move.
What's next then? Like, what do you have coming up for the rest of the year? You kind of did an end of the year trip, but you did it mid-year for the Xanders. What do they call their perch?
Yeah, they call just big jumbo perch.
They are perch?
They're like a perch. Yeah, they don't call them yellow perch. They just call them perch. Yeah,
do they keep them, or is that like keeping our bass? Because I would have a tough time letting them go.
It's all catch and release.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, I wonder. So yellow perch is like the taste, like they're tastier than walleye. They're like
I got 70 in the freezer right now.
Nice. Where do you catch them?
I went out on Sandusky with Michael Simonton, and we got the minnows and he's guides for him. And I took my dad up there, and then we took him to a fish cleaning deal.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're 8 to 10-inch yellow perch, scaled, cleaned, and butterflied. Did 70 of them for $30.
Oh, heck yeah, dude.
Yeah,
that's money.
unbeatable.
That's amazing. Yeah. So in Europe, I went to the Netherlands, on behalf of Nitro Mercury Bass Pro Shops. They actually build the Nitro boats there in Missouri and literally ship them on a giant ship across the Atlantic Ocean, through the North Sea, I believe it's called, and into the Netherlands, into Germany, into Europe. So these Nitro bass boats are fully rigged out. They got the anchors, they got the forward-facing sonar, the 360s, all that, all rigged out for pike, they call them Xander, but it's really like a white walleye looking thing. And then these big giant perch, they look like yellow perch, but they get 5-6 pounds, just like bass. And you could pattern them just like bass. It's so cool. Jerk baits, chatter baits, top water at times, spy baits. But yeah, there's just this huge European market of professional fishing, and just it's not bass fishing because they only have bass in like Italy and some parts of Spain. But there's like this whole other passion for fishing out there, and they do it out of Nitro Mercury boats. Really, really cool. So when you ask me what's next, it's we're still continuing to build out this YouTube stuff. And the drill. A lot of the guys know the drill. Like this big whole. So like, take the Guggen Squad for example. Love them, hate them. And we talked about this before. Love them, hate them, whatever. Them. They really pioneered this. I've got a camera. I'm gonna selfie myself, having a good time catching fish. That formula was introduced to us 10, 12 years ago, however long ago. A lot of us hated on them, but they pioneered that. Hey, let's go show a good time on YouTube, and it was highly profitable for them. Since then, the YouTube fishing market has been diluted, but people still want to click on something that's entertaining. So more and more of that, yes, and that is very, very expensive. Editors, shooters, the cost of gas, lodging, and time to do this stuff and deliver that type of content is very it's time consuming. It's very expensive. So, but we love doing it. We absolutely love doing it. So now that the season, the fishing season is over with, we're still going to continue to do that. U.S. Open is definitely on the list this year. So we're going to go do the U.S. Open, and that opens up some more fishing and YouTube opportunities for us. That's great. And hey, this YouTube thing is hard, dude. It is very hard. You can't just buy subscribers and subscriptions and all that. You got to work hard to entertain and educate. And that's what we've been trying to do. So we could turn around in years down the road and say, hey, look, here are the viewership numbers. Here's what's valuable. And that's what keeps this whole thing moving, this whole bass fishing economy moving. And as far as the professional bass fisherman goes. So,
a lot of questions about the bilge in the instant feedback. Talk a little bit about, you guys have you kind of caught your stride on that? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Maybe some of the surprises or things. You're a podcast host too, along with it. Is it everything you hoped and dreamed it would be?
Well, so I didn't hope and dream any of it. It was Trait who hoped and dreamed all of it. Is it everything you've hoped and dreamed it would be? The Bilge podcast?
Not yet.
Not yet, she says.
Not
She's
yet.
a killer. She's a Texas rattlesnake killer. So she does a lot of the scheduling. We rehearse none of it. It's just like off the cuff, talk about hot topics and fishing, whether it's forward facing sonar, sponsorship stuff. But we like to talk about things that Gerald Swindle or KVD typically don't talk about. We always hear him talk about skipping a ball and out jig, KVD cranking a 10XD. We like talking about other things, like just like the nuts and bolts of how or time off the water. Like you do a great job of it too. But yeah, it's been great. It really has. Viewership's awesome. What we've done, I wish we'd space out the releases a little bit further, because here we are. We do it out of the Battleborn RV.
Yeah.
We do it in the back
in
the
studio
garage.
guests, so they have to be there.
So we have to be at an event. So we will be doing some stuff around the U.S. Open. A lot of the Western anglers are Justin Kerrs.
That's gonna be freaking awesome. That's worth going. No, I got a open right on top.
That's right.
Like right on top of
That's
it.
right.
Florida.
So and Bass Zone has covered the U.S. Open. It's a great Western event. We learn a lot. It's forward facing sonar dominant like last year.
That's worth going out even if you aren't fishing.
Yes,
get
it
those
is.
guys all in one spot.
Yep. And so there'll be more coming down the pipe. But what we've created now, and this is kind of unintentionally, is we've had some heaters over the last couple of weeks. We had Gerald Swindle, we had KVD, we had Greg Hackney, Zona, again, educational, entertaining, and so we've kind of created this podcast that is it's legit. I mean, it's now legit. And at the start of it, just couple months or a year ago, it was just like, we'll just do a podcast.
Now you have to keep feeding it.
Exactly.
And that's where the challenge is.
That's kind of a thing. And again, it's in person. So, in the age of StreamYard and Zoom and Skype, we're going old school face to face, which is great. But Trait does all the lighting. She does and Charles over here and Johnny. We got a couple filmers who travel with us to make sure all that is sound. It's been awesome. It really has been awesome. And who knows where it's going to lead, but we'd like to open up a little bit more, maybe fan interaction where they could ask some questions, just like you do. A comment section where we could ask a Greg Hackney not what his favorite jig color is, but why he named his dog the name of his dog, whatever, but I've realized, like, with viewership counts and everything, like, bass fishing is so small, dude. It is small. And trying to build out there you go. There it is right there. Build's podcast. Those are 3 chairs. We got a mic stand and everything. And that's us. The dramatic lighting. Yes,
you got kind of like a smoky, like you just met someone interesting at like a little bar,
dude. Yes,
up north.
Yeah, dude. It totally looks
I will give him credit. Like, that is way between sound, audio, video quality and stuff. It is way harder. Like, I look at it totally differently, because I struggle with obviously the on location. I do more on the podcast side of it.
Yep.
Do you guys even put your episodes out on like Spotify and stuff right now?
Straight, where are we at on that? Our episodes on Spotify. They ask us that all the time.
We were just working on making sure that we can get paid for the advertising side of that. It's a business decision.
It's a business decision, and YouTube, as crappy as the pay is, it's still pay. So the viewerships go up, the more income we receive, and it's nothing. Trust me, it's nothing, nada. And we enjoyed, and we enjoy just doing it. But we try to direct everyone through YouTube.
Spotify will be next.
Spotify is next. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, on our way back home, we need to have you on, because you always, over the years, have interviewed me. Yeah, I know. I had to cancel. Didn't I catch COVID or something?
Yeah, Matt was supposed to.
Yeah, I got sick. Yeah. But Matt, you're in Dallas Fort Worth all the time now. With some of the off the water activities you do, and we'd love to have you.
You
over.
made that sound like sketchy.
I know.
It's not.
Well, I don't know if any of your relationships are public. I don't know.
It's all good. But yeah, no, I'm down there. We need to. There's a bunch to do. I've been. You guys live in a really cool part of the country.
Yeah, we're out. Yeah.
How close are you to Texas Motor Speedway?
TMS, we're 40 minutes from there. It's it's close. Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on there. It's just, we're in no rush to get back now, but we'd love to have you on. And I'll think of, like I said, we don't prep for any of the Builds podcasts, but who knows? We'll have an adult beverage and just wherever the conversation leads, and we'll talk about things that we didn't talk about here, and just try to make it interesting.
That works. Are you going to the NASCAR playoffs at Texas Motor Speedway?
I don't think we're going to be around for NASCAR playoffs, but one phone call and we've got tickets. So if we're available, we'll go straight to huge NASCAR.
I know what you need to do. When is when is the U.S. Open actually? Is it like the 16th, 17th, 18th
of October? Yeah, mid-October, right in the middle of October.
Yeah,
US
the 20th.
Open.
I'll be in Fort Worth for the Zach Bryan concert.
Oh, nice, dude.
I think
we won't be there.
Yeah, you'll be out.
If you need a place to stay, the key to the
No,
house
we're
is
good. I
always
spend
there.
way too much money on Buc-ee's though. Now that there's a
Yes.
couple Buc-ee's in the area.
Buc-ee's is legit. If you're ever traveling through any of those southern states, dude, Buc-ee's is legit.
How many guys have gone after Buc-ee's? Like
That's
no
a good
BS.
question.
I
That's a
know
good
that there's
question.
some that have, but how many have really tried to go after Buc-ee's?
I don't know, but I would say if your numbers aren't legit, they probably won't even.
Have you?
Like,
Have you
Bud,
tried to go
I have
after him yet?
I have not, and that's this whole thing we talk about, like educating, entertaining, doing it to where it's trackable and traceable. Then you could go to a company like Buc-ee's and maybe strike a deal for a year, and then have them say, "Okay, it's not going to renew." But no, we haven't approached Buc-ee's. That would be a great one. It would, and I know like some anglers have dabbled with like the Loves, the TAs, and everything, but Buc-ee's would be a legit one.
I always like when you've got a guy who has a contact or an in, and he starts mentioning it on stage, or they'll be sliding it in. You're like, oh, he's making his play right now. He's going after him.
Oh, it's so
You'll
obvious.
see him. Maybe sometimes it'll be a year or two that they'll try to go after it. And then
It's
it'll
so
either
obvious.
be on the
Yeah.
Jersey one tournament in the boat, or the next year, or it's like gone, and then he like hates him. That was big in the grill game. You'd have people that were grilling and all that.
Yes.
There's one guy. It's the greatest thing ever. And then like the next week he was like, screw this, I'm a charcoal guy. And you're like, oh, it must not have gone well.
Oh, dude, yeah. Pellets for life, and then charcoal. Yeah.
You know what? On second thought, sometimes all bag of charcoal is the way to go.
It's so obvious, dude. So obvious.
I love it.
That's that's sponsorship in a nutshell right there. It's a brutal game. It really is, and you gotta have it unless dad and mom are loaded and all for you, having a ball. But yeah, it's a grind, dude. It's an absolute grind, sponsorship wise.
All right. I talked to you at iCast for a long time. The new dangerous swim bait out with the hook thing that separates and all that. Is that like good to go? Is that out? People?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen the regular packaging, but I haven't
seen.
Okay.
It's in production right now. It should start shipping. What they say, September, I believe. The dangerous swimmer, the loaded dangerous swimmer. Oh, but it looks like a mag draft. No, trust me, it's different. I've grabbed some things from this type of swim bait. I, not copied, but was inspired by this type of thing from this swim bait. But I could truly say this line through top hook design has been in my head for like 7-8 years. And essentially, a top hook swim bait, it gets bites, but fish throw those larger swim baits really, really easy. So to have a top hook line through, we all know line through swim baits get bit, top hook swim baits get bit. I was just looking for a line through type swim bait that you could fish along the bottom or rip wrap or around laydowns, and do it with the tail wiggle, the head wiggle, and look real. And so we've done that. So we got a heavy version and a light version. Bass Mafia is producing it for us. They are killer to work with. They've got all the right connections within the industry when it comes to making soft baits. And we've got this really cool design, this internal harness system that's going to change the swim bait game. So the next move is, we got the 6-inch version right now. The next move is a 7-inch, and I want to do like a 9 or 10-inch version. But all this stuff takes time. It's a lot of back and forth. So definitely a lot going on. And then color introduction and this and that. So it starts shipping this fall.
Well, you've probably made the biggest, I wouldn't call it a 180 because there's business decisions and it is in the fishing industry.
Yeah.
But man, you've had a lot of changes over the past 2 years.
Yeah, no, just just 4 years ago, I was, with Megabass, I was with Skeeter, I was with Yamaha, and now I'm Nitro Mercury Bass Pro Shops and Guggen Squad / Bass Mafia. You start to realize over the years, you take a look back and look at all the money you've spent, the money coming in, what makes you happy, where your goals and beliefs and things align with who and this and that. When you make these big changes, sponsorship wise, it's like, okay, I'm going to get some hate and criticism over here. I got a lot over here, over this. But ultimately, you have goals. The people you work with and who sign your checks have goals. When you sit there and talk and communicate, mainly trait with my sponsors, our sponsors, it's like, how do we reach this goal together? And some companies understand you a little better than other companies. So you can just kind of make those decisions accordingly. And I feel like the sponsorship lineup I have right now is awesome. They keep us going. They support the hell out of us, and that is so huge. And those are all big changes over the last couple of years that won't change ever again. That's the rest of my career. I mean, I'm gonna work with these companies for the rest of my career, period. And the other thing too is like, it's not really advice, but it's just something I've learned over the years, and it's not for everyone. I mean, you look at a guy like Scott Martin. He's got like 1 million sponsors, and he's got so many obligations. But that's his personality. He's able to deliver the needs of all these different sponsorships. For every lure I have on my shirt right here, he's got a sponsor for. And what we've tried to do is really consolidate and work with some of the larger companies and only just work with a couple of them. That way we could deliver high quality for those higher quality sponsors. And it's not for everyone. NASCAR does it differently. Bass fishermen do it differently. But that's just kind of what works for us, is really concentrate on a select few of sponsors. And we're lucky to have them.
Do you think NASCAR is the closest sport to bass fishing? But we talk about a billion different sports. We'll talk about like European cricket and compare it to bass fishing. But one of the things that Jeffries and we talk about it a little bit, but the more and more I talk about it, I know you guys know NASCAR drivers, have been to NASCAR races. You guys are NASCAR people, trade especially.
Yep.
Is that the most similar sport when it comes to fishing? And we'll close on this because there's a couple little things that they do that is so taboo in fishing, and I don't understand why, because that's what makes it exciting. But yes or no?
I know.
Is that the closest sport?
Yes, because ultimately it's an expensive sport that's driven by the passion and love for the sport, and it's a constant grind to keep partners on board and to please partners. And when a guy, wins a race, gets out of the car, they shove a camera in his face, he slugs a Coca-Cola and says, "My Toyota Camry Racers Bass Pro Shops, the car was so awesome." It's just like when Mercer shoves the camera or the microphone in your face. Oh man, I'd filled up that nitro gas tank and I ran that Mercury. It's like there's a lot of parallels, yes, and the overall game, the overall grind is very, very similar. It says Beans. That's Beans, or one of our dogs. Yeah.
The Belgian Mallow.
This one there, we got a Belgian Malinois, and then this is a Dutch Shepherd. There, she was a day away from being euthanized, and we just had to step in, and she's a part of the team now. She's a part of our NASCAR team. She's the wheel changer.
Aren't those in the Malinois the ones that you see on Instagram that jump like 95 feet in the air and grab the?
Yep, yeah, that, and then they do a lot of police military work. And it's not that they're like mean dogs. It's just they're highly motivated and they are open to training. So the more work you put into them, the more, just like bass fishing, the more work you put in, the more you get out.
A couple more NASCAR points and I'll let you go. You got a lot of dogs to pet and feed, but the ones that the similarities that I would make is they do restrictor plate racing. There's all sorts of regulations that prevent these things from going 700 miles an hour and killing people and making it safe for the fans and the viewers. There might be an interesting case study into there as to why in bass fishing were so resistant to limitations or changes or things. Bass fishing was based on that. If you don't remember, Ray Scott, you had to weigh your tackle bag. You had 8 rods and reels for the Bassmaster Classic. If you broke one, you were down to 7. You couldn't add any bait since then. There is 250 horsepower restrictions on that, but based on, without even mentioning the word, based on our first part of the conversation in the first half, I think maybe you could look at NASCAR to limit it while keeping it entertaining, which is what the restrictor plate deals is for, right? Like, correct. Hey, we got this freaking field and we're looking at our numbers and the fans are saying this is a boring race on this racetrack to do this. They sat down and said, what can we do to make it interesting? Restrictor plates. Now it's a total gong show and everybody loves them, unless you're a purist, and there's still people that are saying, oh, this is all BS and stuff like that. Is that kind of along the same lines?
Same lines, but their sport's got more money in it, and there's just more moving parts. Like, so when you say NASCAR got together and made these decisions, Bass has like one dude or like 2 guys that could talk it over and say, hey, look, how do we make this more interesting? This forward-facing sonar, how do we make it more interesting? You know, and you know, does NASCAR have driver surveys? Like, I mean, how do they say this is how the angler, or this is how the drivers?
Yeah, I would love to know how much goes on behind the scenes. Right, but then the more money you have, I would think the less you would have. But then each driver or each person is also more valuable. So if you're bringing in 50 million to the organization, even if it's worth 500 million, you're going to be very valuable. So then you are going to, I would love to know the inner workings behind the scenes of the other individual sports where everybody's trying to do what's best for their team, their group, their individual to make the championship, whether it's golf, tennis, NASCAR, professional croquet, badminton, I don't care.
But definitely NASCAR is the closest parallel, hands down.
All right. Anything else, Chris?
No, man.
Oh,
anything
the
else we
mustache.
missed?
Are you keeping it?
Oh, yeah.
Because there was some. Definitely. You 100% are. You're not.
I shaved it. Like, I cleaned it up for you. I got this ugly bald spot right in the middle right here, but it's staying for good, man. It is staying for good. I did it for like, I was up here like 3 years ago or whatever, and I just did it as a joke. You know, the chintzy mustache. Kind of the creeper mustache, and it stayed, dude. Like, I first couple tournaments with it was smallmouth tournaments. I top 10 in all of them, and I just kind of stuck it out from there. You know, it's not a Patrick Walters mustache or a Seth Fighter mustache, but it'll do. It gets the job done. I promise you.
So it's like party now. It's not. It
is. It is.
Is Trey thrilled about that?
Yeah. She hates it. She hates it. She hates it. But now it's a part of it really is a part of me.
All right, Chris, I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate the time up north. You hitting the water today?
Appreciate you, bro. Yeah. Well, dude, it's like 75 degrees and no wind. Man. Of course, I'm hitting the water. And if
Thousand Islands or Ontario?
Ontario. Yep. And if we missed any topics here this morning, we could hit them up on the bilge when you're on at my house over the next couple months here.
Awesome. Any what do you have coming up on the bilge? Any new podcasts that are going to drop that maybe you could give us a little tease on?
Yeah, we got Matty Robertson coming up. We may interview maybe one of the guys here. You know, it's interesting. Like, so there's guys, you know, like a Brandon Polnick or Carl Jochimson. Those guys have told their story in so many different places. We like to strategically find topics and guests that are just untold stories, man. That's what delivering that type of bilge content's all about. So we got some things down the pipe. We got a guy, Matt Pangrat, coming on next month. May have heard of him.
I greatly appreciate it. This was a great conversation. There was a billion different directions it could go in.
Absolutely.
In an interesting and productive direction.
Like my name I selected here. No, 2024 classic for me. We didn't touch on that, but just in a nutshell, it was a trying year. And a lot of ups and downs, a lot more downs than ups. But I've never been happier in the bass fishing space. Again, I'm just truly lucky and blessed to travel with my dogs, a couple camera guys, and just to be in this position is awesome. So I don't take any of it for granted. After all these years, 12 years, going on 13, it's just been truly awesome, and I appreciate all that you guys do for us as well. And yeah, we will we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See ya.
All right, guys.
All right, that is Chris Zaldain. Great interview. A lot of insight there on both the business and the fishing side. Going to take a final break of the show. When we come back, put a cap on it, talk a few things more smallmouth. Look forward to the rest of the week. This is BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, you just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there. I'm the kind of guy that never leaves a house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Monday in studio in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, we're going to get into that a little bit now. We have some new schedules that have been released, supposedly the Elite Series, and I don't know if the Open schedule would follow that too, but we do have some schedules. Speaking of schedules, Oklahoma, the Oklahoma University of Oklahoma Sooners kicks off their season next week, their last season in the Big 12 before moving to the SEC. So I don't really talk about college fishing here. College fishing. I talk a little bit about that too, but college football. Obviously, we talk about it when Brad's in studio because he's a diehard OU fan, or when Jamie Horton's on with Alabama, we just had Tim Horton on. We didn't even talk about Auburn with him, but I'm optimistic about this year. We'll just leave it at that. But schedules, speaking of optimism, a couple really good schedules that came out from MLF.
And it seems to me like over the past 2-3 years, especially with the opens and some of it, there's been a push to kind of get away from the standard of Florida tournament. Now you have a limited number of places that you can start a year at, climate wise, especially if you want to start it in January, February. But the MLF Bass Pro Tour schedule came out with all their stages, and they have Toledo Bend, Santee Cooper, Dale Hollow, Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma, the Chowan River in North Carolina, the James River, and the St. Lawrence River out of Messina. Now, I know that Marty, I know they like to do a lot of the South Carolina stuff. I don't know. I would assume that Marty Stone is probably their connection there. I don't know anything about that river, but I think this is a very solid river. You have obviously Toledo Bend is going to be weather dependent, but that lake is really on the upswing. It seems right now that both Rayburn and Toledo Bend, but they kind of seem to go back and forth as to which one. We saw what Ben Milliken did in the Open. I really like that early season Toledo Bend and Santee Cooper in February, which is probably going to be a spawn slugfest. And then you have Red Crest on Lay Lake, but Dale Hollow in April, I think that's going to shine out. And people are going to be, obviously that's associated in Tennessee with big smallmouth. This is all just me pontificating off the top of my head, but based on some of the things that I've experienced and talked with and guys that have fished it, I think people are drastically underestimating the largemouth in Dale Hollow. I think Dale Hollow is going to be a really cool historic fishery that hasn't been on a schedule. They've had some BFLs there. I think they had a Toyota series there last year, if my memory serves me correctly, but Dale Hollow is going to be a really good stop. Then April 30th to May 5th, Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma, not Eufaula in Alabama, which Eufaula is now on the map. We had an invitational that Kelly Jordan won, a Bassmaster Open that Joey Nania won. The NPFL comes later this year, but that time of year, April 30th through May 5th, you're definitely going to have fish on the beds on Eufaula. There's going to be a few post-spawn fish, and we might even have a few pre-spawn fish depending on what the spring is like. But what you saw in the Open with 50, 60, 70 boats right outside of Eufaula Cove, and then the rest up in the Bixby to Porum area is that's not going to be the case at April 30th through May 5th. It's going to spread out. It's going to spread out a lot more. The weights are going to be good. You're going to see all three species, predominantly largemouth play, maybe some spawning fish. You might even have like an early buzzbait bite going on. It should take 18 to 20, possibly more a day. And if the water's up, it's going to be a willow and bush fishing bonanza that's going to be really fun to watch. Then heavy hitters on the Kissimmee chain, and then the Chowan River, according to Mark here, he said Chowan River. I know nothing about that. No clue. So it's cool. It's a new one. I'll tune in to watch a new one. I like new ones. June 25th through 30th, a grinder on the James River. Be interesting to see how the Chickahominy plays. If they allow them to trailer on that one, that's going to open up a ton of water. Shane's saying that the Chowan will be a slugfest and it's going to expose a lot. Interesting. And then wrapping things up in August on the St. Lawrence River, which we kind of know what to expect on the St. Lawrence River for that. They also came out with the invitational schedule for 2024. This is a really good schedule, in my opinion. Sam Rayburn, early February, West Point Lake, beginning of March. Professional fishing returns to Kentucky Lake. It's been a minute since we've had in Kentucky. Word is the smallmouth have really boomed on Kentucky Lake. The largemouth are making a comeback, obviously, with all of the issues that they've had with the Asian carp in that lake. It would be really nice for the invitationals to go there and just put on a slugfest on Kentucky Lake. I think you're going to see a lot of smallmouth, though, unexpected smallmouth, and they should be spawning. Then Lake Eufaula in Alabama, May 10th through 12th. And then the last two on this, Lake Champlain in June. I was talking to a couple guys about that. They're really excited about that one. That should set up perfectly for a spawning event. And then the Detroit River July 26th through the 28th. Those are all 3-day. I need to do some more homework when it comes to the Bassmaster Elite Series as far as who's in and who's out. Obviously, Kyle Welcher wins Angler of the Year over Brandon Cobb. Not a surprise there with Welcher. I think if you polled all of the Elite Series anglers and the media as to the top 5 hardest working, naturally talented anglers on tour, I think Welcher would be in pretty much everybody's top 5. Very talented angler there to win it. Right now, I think the classic cut, from what I can figure out, is at 41. It's either 41 or 42. So Mueller's it's either Cole Sands is the last man in at 42 or Paul Mueller's the last man in at 41. But interesting anglers who, I mean, are not going to be in this year's classic. Scott Martin, Bill Lowen, Brian New jumped all the way up to 46 after starting the year after 4 events in like 104th. Then he had a baby and he just caught on fire. He was like literally 10, 15 points away from making it, which would have been probably one of the biggest comebacks. Yeah, 41. So Paul Mueller's last man in. Cole Sands out on a tiebreaker currently with 3 opens left. So if anyone wins an open and is not qualified, or if someone double wins an open or is not qualified for to fish all 3, like just jackpot an open, then the next one would be Cole Sands, then Gaston, and then Scott Martin with 504. Scott Martin missing the classic. Mike Iaconelli down in 47th, taking some heat for not talking on stage on the final day. Dude, you know what you get with Iaconelli. He's always been that way. He's true to himself. He didn't feel like talking. He threw his season away, in his opinion, I'm sure, after being in the top 10 for most of it and going 0 for 3 in the smallmouth tournaments up north. Was not a happy camper. Probably still is not a happy camper. I don't put it as a mark against Iaconelli. That's Ike. I love the passion. You know what you're getting. When Ike is Ike, he is the best it is at bringing people into the sport, educating, talking, engaging with the fans, and disseminating information. And he's just as effective at melting down on stage, in a boat. And I love every bit about it because he's passionate and he stays true to who he is. So Cliff Perch, probably the biggest surprise. He was way in it. He came in with 4 for 5 pounds on day one. There has to be some more story. I'll call Cliff eventually. He's probably taking it out on an elk somewhere in Arizona right now. But perennial classic qualifiers who are also not in: Brandon Lester, Gerald Swindle, John Cruz, Steve Kennedy, Seth Feider. We just talked today. Chris Zaldain, Keith Combs, Matt Herron, Mark Menendez. And then you get down to the list of guys, and I do not know, and Bass has not put it out, when it comes to who is in. Yeah, 42. That's a great point, because Patrick Walters double qualified because he won an automatic invite and he qualified earlier. So Cole Sands is in. So that means I believe David Gaston is first out at 43. Yep. By 1 point. Ooh. So there's a chance he could see Scott Martin, and he's got to have 2 of the last 3 double qualify. But when it gets down to guys who are requalifying for the Elite Series, this is a convoluted process, folks, because you have rookies who get 2 years. So if you're in the bottom below 70th, you get 2 years regardless if you're a rookie. And you also have some medical exemptions that are in there. Then you also have, I think if you've been on the Elite Series for like 5 years, they take your average and you drop some years. There's all sorts. You have legends who are in there. You have all sorts of factors that are in play when it comes down to it. So there are some that we know are out. There are some legends that have potentially exhausted all of their legends points. You get a legends point for each classic and each angler of the year that you have. So if you only have 1 or 2 of those and finish below 70th, then you can't fish it the next year. But like I said, we know that there's a couple guys that will not be because, below 70th, you have to rely on averages and things like that. About 70th or above, you're 100% safe. I've been texting with Daryl Gleason. I'll get him on the show sometime because he's in an interesting position. Man, he didn't have a bad year. He had a good year. He worked on it, but that was the 2 and you're done. And I don't even want to hypothesize it. Who else is in that same boat as Gleason? So yeah, there's also some guys. That's a great point, Chuck. He said, how about Matty Wong? There's also some guys who were out who fished their way back in with amazing performances. Matty Wong being one of them. He jumps all the way up to 67th. Another year for the guy from Hawaii. And I really like him. He's such a positive dude. So, all right, we're going to wrap things up for the day. Still working on the rest of the week. We'll see what we can come up with. I know we got day 4 with Frank Scalish on Thursday. I've got a couple irons in the fire. But great show today. A lot of live viewers talking on after it. And I'm sure we have not talked the last about the St. Lawrence River. Hey, if you want more content, head over to Facts of Fishing. We have a whole new batch of the Cull episodes that just dropped. Every Monday morning drop that, so go over and listen to me and Dave Mercer argue about stuff. All right, that's all we got for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time. Later.